He is vowing to pursue the death penalty.
State-sanctioned murder is not justice.
For certain criminals, violent offenders.
It is not a deterrent for crime.
In light of what President Biden just did.
We are an anomaly when it comes to the inhumane and barbaric practice of the death penalty.
We will be a nation of law and order again.
Welcome back to the DeVore Darkin Show. In this video today, Trump drops a special message on Christmas to the 37 murderers that were granted clemency by Joe Biden. And he also sends a Merry Christmas to the Chinese soldiers who are currently occupying the Panama Canal and putting them on notice about what he plans to do. These stories and more in this video today, but let's start with what he had to say about the 37 murderers that were granted clemency by Joe Biden. The president-elect posted this on Truth Social. Merry Christmas to the radical left lunatics who are constantly trying to obstruct our court system and our elections and are always going after the great citizens and patriots of the United States, but in particular, their political opponent, me. They know that their only chance of survival is getting pardons from a man who has absolutely no idea what he is doing. Also, to the 37 most violent criminals who killed, raped, and plundered like a virtually no one before them, but were just given incredibly a pardon by sleepy Joe Biden, I refuse to wish a Merry Christmas to those lucky souls, but instead will say, go to hell. We had the greatest election in the history of our country. A bright light is now shining over the USA, and in 26 days, we will make America great again. Merry Christmas. Now, Chris Cuomo, in response to Joe Biden obviously granting clemency to these murderers, he said this: many are commenting as if Biden freed these murderers. He did it. He doesn't believe in the death penalty. The sentences were commuted to life in prison. The truth is enough. No need to twist it. And of course, I fired back at Chris Cuomo and said this: the fact that this is even a discussion is a problem. Why are murderers being used for political games? Because that's really what Joe Biden is doing, okay? He is granting clemency to these murderers, as in he is taking them off death row and issuing them just a life sentence without the possibility of parole, because he knows Trump is for the death penalty. So this is about politics at the end of the day. And that's why it made sense what Trump said in his Christmas message to those individuals. And then there was another individual that posted this in the comments section. Well, then, those people are either lying or stupid. He left the three political hot potatoes. Unless you're willing to believe that his disapproval of the death penalty has limits. If so, what exactly are those limits? Come on, Chris, you know this is bullshit. Meaning, you know that there are still three individuals left on death row. So it's not that he truly believes that the death penalty shouldn't exist, because if he really believed that, he would have granted clemency for all of them, right? A total of 40 people were on death row. He issued clemency to 37 of them. So I'm not too sure you can make that argument, by the way. Now, of course, there are people who are not praising this decision, like Trump, like Republicans, for an example. Clearly, we know what Joe Biden is doing here. He's playing political games. And it won't end well. This is going to be another stain on his legacy. Anybody with common sense knows this is a bad look. I'd understand if he gave clemency, possibly even a pardon to someone on death row, maybe 3 to 5. But when you do it for 37 individuals, yeah, something's going on, right? Now, of course, you're going to be able to find people who do support this decision and are praising it. So here's Congresswoman Presley on MSNBC doing just that. And she also suggests that the death penalty is racist.
State-sanctioned murder is not justice. It is not a deterrent for crime. It does not support healing. It is not compassionate of our peer nations. We are an anomaly when it comes to the inhumane and barbaric practice of the death penalty. And moreover, in Trump's first administration, he executed more people in the final days of his presidency than have been executed in the last 6 decades. So we have every reason to believe that that's what he would do for those that, in an expedited way, those currently on death row.
Now, in case you didn't understand anything she was saying, because I know she was rambling on and using a lot of big words, here's the bottom line, okay? There are two fundamental ways of looking at this entire issue as it pertains to the death penalty. One side has compassion for the murderers. That would be Joe Biden. That would be the Democrats, progressives. The other side, they have compassion for the victims. That's Trump, the Republicans, okay? And so that's what you're always going to see on this particular issue. Now, if you told me someone raped children, the elderly, murder some other individuals, should they get the death penalty? My answer is always yes. Absolutely, they should. But others think, yeah, that's being racist. There's racial disparities. That's not true justice. And just to give you guys an example of the mindset coming out of the White House currently right now and why we can't wait until January 20th, hear the actual attorney involved in deciding who gets this type of pardon or clemency from the president. Check this out.
What are your office's priorities in terms of approaching this backlog of cases?
So let me make clear that the Office of the Pardon Attorney is not the ultimate decision maker on clemency or even what the clemency priorities are, but we do make a recommendation, and the recommendation that we make is an important part of the process. And our recommendations are based on a wide variety of factors. Systemic racial disparities are absolutely a factor that we take into consideration in making our recommendations on clemency. To be clear, we don't look at the race of individual clemency petitioners. That's not a piece of information that we ask for in our clemency petition or that we solicit. But we do, of course, consider all of the data from the Sentencing Commission and other sources that shows systemic racial disparities that are baked into certain sentencing laws and practices.
All right, now that's two people in a row who said a lot of words, but I have no idea where she was going. Now, what I took from that clip is something very simple. It's a total contradiction. In one breath, she's talking about, well, we don't really look at their race. We don't ask what their racial identity is. But in another breath, we're looking at racial disparities, systematic racism. I mean, how do you square that, right? Now, of course, you know that Trump had to be very clear with what he's going to do about this. So he obviously had that Christmas message to those murderers. And then he had a message to the Biden administration and the world about what he plans to do on day one as it pertains to this particular issue. Check this out.
There may be 26 days till Inauguration Day, but President-elect Trump is already making waves. This includes promising to bring back federal executions after President Biden commuted the sentences of 37 people on death row. Aisha Hasni is live from Washington with more on that. Hey, Aisha.
Hey, Griff. So, yeah, he is vowing to pursue the death penalty for certain criminals, violent offenders, in light of what President Biden just did. Trump writing this on Truth Social: as soon as I am inaugurated, I will direct the Department of Justice to vigorously pursue the death penalty to protect American families and children from violent rapists, murderers, and monsters. We will be a nation of law and order again.
So this takes us to another post that he put up that people are definitely reacting to. He put Merry Christmas to all, including the wonderful soldiers of China who are lovingly but illegally operating the Panama Canal, where we lost 38,000 people in its building 110 years ago. Always making certain that the United States puts in billions of dollars in repair money, but will have absolutely nothing to say about anything. Also, to the governor Justin Trudeau of Canada, whose citizens' taxes are far too high, but if Canada was to become our 51st state, their taxes would be cut by more than 60%. Their businesses would immediately double in size, and they would be militarily protected like no other country anywhere in the world. Now, if you guys are not catching on, this is continuing to trigger the media into this meltdown about Trump and his fascination when it comes to the Panama Canal. And here is Scott Jennings pushing back on the media, who is freaking out about all of this. It's fascinating how much they get triggered when Trump goes on Truth Social and drops his own opinion about how he feels and how he sees things. Here you go.
Experts in both the U.S. and Panama are clear that unless Donald Trump wants to go to war with Panama, Trump cannot assert control. A negotiating tactic, maybe.
Yeah.
But is it even close to serious when you can't assert control over the Panama Canal?
Well, I tell you what is very serious, and that is pushing back on the encroachment of Chinese influence in the Western Hemisphere. Yes, I do.
You think this does that?
I think Donald Trump is trying to send a message to the Chinese, and he's also trying to send a message to everyone else in the hemisphere that I'm not going to put up with this encroachment. Now, what is true is that China is having encroachment in this hemisphere, in Africa, all over the world. They are trying to act like the world's leading superpower. They are trying to exert their values and their way of life all over the world. That used to be our job. And I think what Donald Trump is saying here is, I don't want this in my backyard. America is the world's superpower. More America is better. And I'm sending a message that I'm not going to put up with this sort of creeping Chinese influence in my own backyard.
Now, before I even react to what Scott Jennings had to say, let us take a moment out to hear from today's sponsor of this video, Colonial Metals Group.
All right, now let me share something with you guys. I believe in having a substantial percentage of my financial future secured with gold and silver. That's why I decided to partner with today's sponsor, Colonial Metal Groups. They've helped me set up a safe and secure self-directed IRA where I can have access to my assets, no matter what the stock market is doing, and for that matter, no matter what the government is doing. Go to freegoldguide.com/Devori for your Colonial Metal Group's retirement protection kit, created specifically for people like you. That is freegoldguide.com/Devori, or call 1-800-757-5158. That is 1-800-757-5158. Qualified applicants can receive up to $7,500 in additional silver to their account. Call now.
Now, of course, I agree with Scott Jennings, but the interesting thing about all of this is not everybody does. I mean, you've got congresswomen coming out and actually stating that they are more worried about Trump wanting to take over the Panama Canal than they are with what China has been doing recently. Now, let me give you guys an example. Check this out.
We have to have rational, balanced diplomacy. And listen, the Belt and Road Initiative that China has engaged in is something that, I have traveled the globe with my colleagues and met with military leaders. It is real. It is a real issue. But what we need to do is make sure that we strengthen our relationships with our allies and treaty partners like Panama, not make ridiculous carnival barker threats like buying Greenland, which isn't for sale and we're not going to acquire, and invading Panama to take back the canal. There's been a drought in Panama, Kate, and so it has slowed passage of ships. But what Donald Trump is really trying to do here is try to get better fees for passage for his corporate and billionaire allies. That's what this boils down to, and it's preposterous.
Her perception of a balanced, rational diplomacy as it pertains to the Panama Canal has obviously led to terrible results, given what China has been doing. And she even acknowledged that what China has been doing has been a problem. But like I stated, she's more focused on Trump. And once again, you're witnessing weak leadership. Now, why does this even matter? Why is this such an issue? Because you're continuing to witness how the media will manipulate and skew the truth to make sure that regular citizens start to believe that what Trump is doing isn't going to benefit them, is him being unhinged, and there is really no truth to whatever he says. And that's why we have this channel, because we want to show you both sides of the story and let you decide, of course. Now, here is Michael Singleton on CNN continuing to back up the facts behind this entire story and why Trump is doing the right thing.
There are 5 principal zone ports in Panama. China controls 2. The United States doesn't control any. We controlled the Panama Canal completely up until 1977. We entered into a mutual agreement with the Panamanian government. In 1999, we handed over complete control to them. And fast forward to 2023, 2024, now China controls 2 of those zones. Trump is mad about it. And in my opinion, Sarah, he is right to be mad. The Chinese government, they're not playing checkers here. They're playing 4D chess to dominate the global stage. And in my opinion, they're moving in what I would argue is an area and a pace that should concern U.S. leaders.
Yeah, so I said it before. I'll say it again. It's like as if these politicians are more concerned with what Trump is going to do besides what China has done that has clearly threatened our power as it pertains to the Panama Canal. Let's just be honest about it. We lost people over it. We've spent billions of dollars over it. Why would we allow China to have control over it? It seems to me that's a simple equation. 1 + 1 = 2. But again, we're talking about politics. There's a narrative here. People will say one thing, do another. But the bottom line here is that Trump is continuing to make waves, and people always have to have some emotional reaction to it, when a lot of things that he says, if you truly remove the emotion and just look at the logical part of it, has a lot of truth to it. Okay, so now I want you guys to answer a question in the comment section below. Do you believe Trump is correct for wanting to seize control of the Panama Canal? Or do you believe he's focusing on the wrong things? Let me know what your thoughts are about all of this in the comment section below. Now, there was somebody else who made waves recently on CNN, and that was Anthony Scaramucci, who was fired 10 days into the first Trump administration. He just issued a stark warning to Elon Musk, claiming that he needs to stick to business because he could get hurt by these same politicians. If you guys want to check out that story and more, all you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.